Hey guys, welcome back to episode 10 of my Ymir tutorial series. It's been a while, it's been a month since I've recorded the last episode of this. I had some problems with my PC. I have a pre-built PC, I know, what a scrub. And it broke, and Corsair have taken a month to replace it. Poo-poo service. But enough about that. I'm back, and in that time I was playing on my laptop. I amassed seriously bad amount of hours. Bad in terms of I wasted a lot of time. I got about, I think, 200 hours, 300 hours in that month. So I've actually learned a lot about the game that I didn't know in that time, and a lot of stuff I can pass on to you guys. One such information is that the jungle actually gives you a health malus. I'm not sure if I've covered this before, but I'm definitely saying it now. In the jungle, if we come to growth, no, sorry, people, if we go to health, we can actually see here terrain effect. The jungle has a -5 modifier, and I've also learned since playing them a lot more about the war and a lot more about the early game, so I'm going to try and pass that information on to you. So one other bit of information I have learned from playing on multiplayer servers in that time, in this last month, is that I believe jungle is one of the, if not the worst spot you can get. And yeah, I will say I think it is the worst spot. Continental is 100% the best, and I'd say Nordic is the second best, and actually not too far off. Jungle is definitely the worst. It's the only spot that gives you a health penalty, a -5, which doesn't sound like a lot, but -5 health is huge. It really does have a big impact. If you think upgrading from a level 1 house to a level 1 large house is just a 2 health bonus, and that can easily do a huge amount in increasing your population. So a -5 penalty is huge. That's anything I want to cover for now. One other thing I mentioned previously, is you don't want to grow too large, because otherwise you'll have huge conflict. This is true in the single player where you're relying on your own techs. In the multiplayer, I'd actually disagree. If you have the ability to grow as large as you can, build as many houses as you can, try and fulfill your demands and services, because it all creates more wealth and it all creates more money once you switch to bartering. But in the single player, I still do agree with what I said, because you're not trying to outpace anyone else, and because you're just trying to build in your own time, you do want to watch how far you go. But in the multiplayer, techs will be coming up left, right and centre in the early game, so actually you want to constantly be trying to grow as big as possible. That's enough random chit chat. We're going to get back into the game. So last time we completed Thriving Agriculture, now we're on to the next huge mission, and that is taking leadership. In the multiplayer, people rush this, and the people who do rush this and get it first are the ones who get to claim all the land. If we looked at the world map, we can see here, we've got our capital here. In a multiplayer game, you may get lucky, well I say lucky, but you may be in a situation where there's very few people around you, or you may be in a game where almost every bit of the world next to you is just filled with players. If this is the case, you want to claim the land, especially good land, like rivers, or potentially even, as weird as it sounds, mountain tiles. Lots and lots of useless, at first, mountain tiles, because later on, those mountain tiles, maybe even hill tiles, will have metals. If you, let's say, claim 8 mountain tiles, which is a very good amount, there's a very good chance you'll get at least some copper, potentially even tin. Who knows, maybe you get lucky and you'll get some precious metals, such as silver or gold. So being the first to claim the land near you is really important. Single player, again, you're not in any rush. There's no one to claim the land. But multiplayer, keeping in mind that rushing, taking leadership could be potentially very good. Where Ymir sort of messes you up is you need 25 adornments. That is key. The 25 for large houses is quite easy. 20 javelineers, that's very easy. But the 25 adornments is what is either you get it and you get leadership, or you don't. Everything else you can fulfill yourself. The adornments need pearls or obsidian or shells. Sorry, yeah. Pearls, obsidian or shells. You can use gold, but please don't. So pearls, obsidian or shells to make adornments. Obsidian is very rare. Pearls, I think, are only found on the coast, so they're quite rare as well. Shells are the most common, I believe, out of all of them, but they're still quite rare. You'll find shells most likely on the coast or on rivers, but I have seen them, and again, very rarely, but in just inland tiles, like let's say, for example, this jungle. If you get shells, please make use of them. They make early game jewellery, which lasts for a long time, and they are very valuable. But most importantly, they make these adornments, the early game jewellery, that lets you get taking leadership. So what I did last month, and it crashed the recording, so I lost all the footage, but I spent an hour scouting all this land. I didn't find any adornment spots. Extremely unlucky. If this was the case in the multiplayer game, you're screwed. You can't get taking leadership first. However, it's not a huge deal because somebody else will get taken leadership and it will slowly pass to you as a tech. I say slowly, maybe in a day or two. So you will get it in the end, and you don't even have to activate this. Activating this mission gives you leadership. However, if somebody else activates this mission, you can get the leadership tech yourself for free. But then obviously you won't be the first to claim all the land. So this is the problem, guys. I've scouted a huge amount of land, and yet I never found any shells. So I'm screwed, right? Especially in the single player. Not entirely. Firstly, there is more land to scout. But secondly, you can also get, and I can see I've got rebellion risk. I was a bit, oh no, it's gone now, but I was just under the 30 loyalty, so my city was, and look, I'm at 98 conflict. I'm saying that, sorry, I've got 12 inactives. I'm going to hire more troops. What I'm going to do is, if we go to state, we've got 5. Again, I've learned so much from before. State power, the main thing it affects is loyalty. Once you change to bartering, it affects how much money you earn. We'll get into this another time. While we're in the gift economy, in this very early game, we don't earn money. So the only thing state power affects is loyalty. Loyalty can easily be controlled with an army. So having armies costs state power. But actually, we can get more armies to offset the state power that we lose from having the armies, if that makes any sense. So we've currently got this army here, this nice big army. I'm going to make another army as an explorer army. So I'm going to keep this army on my capital, and I'm going to actually give this 4 more troops. I'm going to go, and also, another tip, sorry. If you go to army and you click here, you see the army costs 5 state power. If you come here, when we click national army, it's 2 state power cheaper. This is excellent. The only little sort of trick with that is because it's a national army, if you are a part of a nation with other players, the marshal in that nation, so the leader of the nation, and anybody the leader set as a marshal, can move your armies. However, if you're playing with friends, or you have trust in the leader, he probably won't move your troops. Or you can just tell him not to. So setting your armies to national armies is excellent. Saves 2 state power. And in the late game, when you've got maybe 5 or 6 armies, that can save 10 state power, which you can use for other policies. So we've now got this to a national army, and that should hopefully set to a 3 soon. I'm going to come here, formations, new formation, national army. I'm going to name these guys the Scouts. And I'm going to put 10 Javelineers. So you can see we're going over our military support this territory. Shouldn't be a huge problem. We still have a little bit of growth to go, and we're not very far over it. So I'm going to get that, and I'm going to have a new army pop up. The reason I've gone 10 is because under 10, when you're exploring these black void spaces, I call them, you have the quite high potential that your army will be instantly destroyed. So putting it above 10, no matter what 10 it is, whether that's 10 knights, sorry not knights, 10 horsemen, 10 crossbowmen, 10 sows, whatever unit it is, it means they can't be insta-killed. I'm now going to wait for them to get some AP, and I'm going to move them off, and I'm going to scout some of the territory. This is also some good tips for the multiplayer game as well, because scouting isn't essential at all. In fact, in most multiplayer games, I don't scout until later on when I'm much more established, because the reason is, I only care about me and my close neighbours, because they're the ones who are going to attack me, and who I'm really going to be trading with. Scouting does have benefits though, because if you scout far away, you can see ongoing wars to potentially see if there's more aggressive or larger nations forming in the far away lands. It also allows you to connect with people a bit farther away who maybe are friendly and want to trade with you. and they're just that little bit further away. Okay, so I'm going to right-click that. So sorry, while I'm waiting for them to charge up, there's a few more things I want to say. This is going to be like an information where I throw a lot of stuff at you. So it's going to be a video where I throw a lot of information at you. Because, again, I've learned quite a lot since last speaking to you guys. If you're not interested in that, you can skip ahead just to when I continue this game. But while I'm waiting for them to charge up, I'll say the reason the tropical biome is, in my opinion, one of the worst is not only because it has the health debuff, but because also it has a poor selection of animals, in my opinion. But really, it's because it has such a unique set of everything. Food, animals, and consumer goods. So what I mean by that is, in certain territories, you can only grow or produce whatever certain animals. So in the continental biome, you can only produce cows, horses. Can't even think what else there is. I think that's it. Cows and horses, and there's got to be some other animals. In the Nordic biome, you can only produce sheep, cows. Again, I think sheep, cows, rabbits. So each of these different biomes have animals you physically, if you get, let's say, Nordic horses, sorry. If you're in the Nordic biome and you take in buffalo, which you've got here, you can't grow them. You can have them in your territories, obviously, but you can't grow them. That is where I think, in my opinion, the tropical biome sucks, because it's quite a small area. Most maps have very small tropical areas, but they're very specific in the growth of certain things. So for example, in the tropical biome, you can only grow buffalo, llamas, chickens, capybaras. They're the 4 animals you can grow, but you can't, for example, buy cows off the continental neighbours and then grow the cows there. So I feel you're almost disconnected from the rest of the server in a way, because you can't trade mutual goods with each other, because the goods aren't mutual. That's the problem. Like for example, wheat. Wheat is one of the most common food type in the game, because the arid and continental biomes can grow it. You can't grow wheat. You can't grow apples, which is the other most important food type. You can't make these alcohol types that are sold. You can only make rum. So I feel tropical, unless the map is very tropical. What I'd even recommend, guys, is unticking tropical. But that's just me. There may be much more experienced players than me who disagree and say tropical is a better biome than I think it is. But I don't think it's that. Again, sorry for the ramble, guys. I realised we're at 100, so I'm going to get moving off. And I'm actually going to come this way. Oh, that's just reminded me. National armies, the bad thing about national armies is they can't explore new territories. So, your home guarding army, the one you're not going to move, definitely have a national army. But these guys who are going to be exploring, I'm going to set them back to an army, and I'm going to get exploring down south. So already we've got an event, can we explore the void? I'm going to say no, we don't want new people just yet. We are growing, so we could have taken them, but I want to keep moving down here. So I'm now going to explore this area. I'll be back. Okay guys, so I've just gone on this first tile. This is a Mediterranean tile, and actually it's not too bad. It's got not too much flint, so you've got space to grow your crops. It's got a good amount of clay. It's got 2 fish over here. But one thing I want to mention, and I'm not 100% sure how real it is, and if it is real, and I think it is, but I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it's a little tip. When you see big gravel deposits like this, so not flint, because flint's everywhere, this is like the flint, but like gravel like this on mountain tiles, like where it looks like this, that could be an ore deposit. And it makes sense because ore is much more likely to spawn on the hilly bits of the map. So when we look here, this looks like it could be an ore deposit. So keep that in mind, because obviously we can't see ore deposits yet. We haven't got the tech, which is metallurgy. But no, there's no shells here, so I'm going to move on. So another thing I want to mention is about arid tiles. Arid biomes on their own, flat arid biomes suck. They have pretty poor fertility. They, again, a bit like the tropical, where the resources they have are very specific to their own territories, which means less trading, apart from wheat, which is good. But arid tiles on rivers are exceptionally good. If we look here, fertility, 6 fertility right on the riverbed, and then 3 on the other bits. That may not seem that great. Okay, that's 6 fertility. What's the big fuss? But each fertility you go up makes a huge difference in the production of the field on it. So, for example, a field with 1 fertility will produce, let's say, 0.05 of a good, if you have no SID points in it. So a 6 fertility produces 6 times the output in 1 field. So even though only the 6 fertility is only on a very small space, that small space is equivalent of, let's say you have 3 fertility, double that space with 3 fertility. So 6 fertility is only found on the arid tiles, and it's really goddamn good. Okay guys, so I've explored all the way down here and checking every single coastal tile. I'm yet to find shells. Very disappointing. I did lose one of my javelineers, so I have returned home. I was also low on stamina, because I don't want to explore more while I'm under 10, guys. I also got some events where I gained some resources. I'm just going to unload these. And the 15 figs is figs are a food resource that you can grow in the Mediterranean, which is where I got them from, down here. But I can't grow them myself, and because I don't have a sieve point in them, they're basically useless for me. So if this was a multiplayer game, you could keep them and sell them on the market later on, but I'm just going to discard them. I don't need them for this single player game. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer, get the action points back, get some more troops, and I'm going to head up north this time. Because in a real multiplayer game, if this was obviously you probably wouldn't be exploring this far anyway. Well, you could if you wanted to. But in a multiplayer game, if there wasn't shells, I'd say within 3 tiles of your city in all directions, I wouldn't bother going for them. Unless you are literally extremely, like in a really rare situation where there's just no players around you and you can afford to do that. But you probably won't be able to without bumping into many players and splitting yourself off. So I'm only doing this exploring very far away from my capital due to it being single player. Ladies and gentlemen, it's done. It has taken me about 20 minutes in this video, and it took me over an hour in my unuploaded video from a month ago to find shells. I've finally done it, and it's a tiny, tiny deposit. Oh my goodness. Better than nothing though. However, we've found it. It is quite far up north. It's on the coast. Again, if this was a multiplayer, this would be a terrible idea to settle here. Unless you were doing it simply to get the shells and then come away. But seeing this is single player, I am going to have a city here for now. So we can see it's all the way up here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 tiles away, so it's actually not as far as I thought. So why I'm saying this is because in Ymir, sorry, let me just put this on in camp. Just another thing. While your guys are low on stamina and they're in the middle of nowhere, they'll only get 1 recovery. If you hold right click and go to in camp, it'll cost 10 stamina, but they'll gain another 4 stamina. So in Ymir, your cities pay extra administration or get an administration debuff in percentage points based on how far away they are from the capital. So each tile they are away from the capital, they get a 10% debuff to administration. That doesn't sound a lot, but later on in the game, that can really cripple the economic output of the city, because you're paying so much waste, or you're losing so much of your income that the city costs you quite a bit of money, or doesn't make you much money. In the early game though, in a gift economy, administration is irrelevant because you don't earn money. So settling quite wide cities to extract a resource, collect it all up, and then evacuate the city and flee and bring it back to your capital is a good tactic actually if it's a particular resource like shells you need for technology, or maybe it's a certain food type that you want to grow in your capital. That makes sense. But you need to think, if let's say, I know there was gold on this tile and it's a multiplayer game and I want to hold the gold, that's definitely viable, but you need to think that city's going to take a big administration debuff in the future when you unlock bartering. Anyway, before I end this video, I'm not sure how long this video is going to be because a lot of the Audacity time is from me just moving around. So I'm going to continue, and this may be quite a long video. But anyway, in your capital, go new formation, go settlers, and now you can actually make a little band of porcos who can settle cities. So what I like to do in the early game is go for around, let's say 5. The amount of sows and porcos you have really depends on how important and how quickly you want to get this city up. That's one factor. But also how big your capital is. If your capital is currently growing and you need the jobs urgently, you may only want to go for 5 and 5. If the capital's absolutely at max capacity and you have spare jobs, you may want to go 10 or even 15 porcos and sows. But I'm going to go 10 because the capital's got spare job. Well, I say spare job, it's at equilibrium of jobs. And I also want the city to be grown up quite a bit. So I'm going to go 10 sows, I'm going to match that with 10 pigs. 10 porcos, sorry. Remember, porcos are ones who do all your jobs, but the sows are the ones who produce new generations so the city can grow. So you do want an equal amount of both. What I'm also going to do is, now I've got 20 spaces, I'm going to get some hammers. I'm going to go for 10 hammers. I'm going to go for some javelins. If there's a hunting spot, which I really hope there is, so I'm going to go for 3 javelins. I'm going to go with some wood, a little bit of wood, let's say 3 wood. And then I'm going to go a little bit of stone. No, I think this is okay actually. I'm going to go for more wood, just in case. And then, once... Yep, sorry, I thought Redwood Slayers, it sounded like it was a military group. Once they're up, I'm going to march them over here. This is safe to do, because this is a single player game, so I know nobody's going to intercept them because there's no players nearby. But also, because I've cleared all this area of all the void, there's not going to be any events that could kill these guys. Okay, they're at 100. And I'm going to march them in the most AP profitable way. It doesn't really matter. I know they're going to be okay. But I'm going to march them in the most AP profitable way. Another thing is actually, if you can't find a shell deposit, and like I've said, this is a city, it's very far away, 4 tiles. So it's a pretty bad shell deposit too. But for the single player game, where it's all about just sort of progressing, nobody's going to attack me, I'm not trying to race anybody, I'm happy to settle over here. In a multiplayer game, this probably wouldn't be viable. But if you do want to get leadership quite quickly, these little tribes here, the Porco-Dethelian tribes, carry shells. This one here has 4 guys, and they have 5 shells. I have scouted around, and this is the only one I found. But... but... if you manage to find enough of these and you could kill them with your javelins, you could get their shells and use that to unlock wearing adornments. But again, the problem is wearing adornments only gives you 8 adornments. So if you don't have a supply of shells coming in, and you won't find enough of these guys to fulfill that supply, you can't fulfill the 25 adornments. So you really do need a shell deposit. So, settlers, I'm going to move them to this tile. And hold right click, settle, Tassar. Boom, we've got a new city. And you can see here, because this is my capital, this is where my little logo is. So this is saying it's in my land, because it's my colours, but it's just a city. So what you want to do is, straight away, you want to go into the city, because your people are going to be starving and dehydrated. So, now we're in, the slums have appeared, some storage has appeared. We want to straight away get water collectors up. This city is on the coast, so it has plenty of water. It doesn't actually have a little pond, so yeah, it's only the coastal water. So, let's get one up there. One up there, just 2 for now, we don't need any more. So that's water setting up. Do we have any hunting spots? We have 2 hunting spots. So I'm going to get one there. And we don't have any more javelins. But we have got a second one if we need. So I'm going to set this one to critical, just like before. And gathering camps. There is no food, no agricultural food to acquire, so we only relying on the meat. But that's okay, and the reason it's okay is because we're just using this as a temporary city to acquire these shells. We don't need this to be a mega city like our capital because we only really want the shells, and we could, if we wanted to, make some weapons here like javelins to supply bigger armies in the capital, or we could make tools here like hoes, hammers to send back to the capital to grow that even bigger. Because while we're in a gift economy, we don't have to pay for any of these resources we make. So little auxiliary cities like this that not only acquire a unique resource like shells, but also that supply the capital with spare tools and equipment are really useful in the early game. What you got to remember is, once you switch to bartering, you're going to have to pay upkeep for the city, plus pay for all the goods that the city makes. So that you may not find that they're actually profitable after that. Okay, so we've got the hunting up. I'm actually making a surplus. So hopefully we should find that we're growing. But if we're not, I can get some houses down. But we have actually got 7 spare, so it's okay. I think we can fulfill this, so you annoyingly find that it picks up both the flint and shells. You can't decide between each, but we are good, I think. Yeah, I think we're picking up all those shells. We've got 0.7, 0.7, 0.7. So we've got 2.1 shells, which is actually a nice amount, as long as these odds are, well, it doesn't really matter actually, as long as these odds are high. Now with the shells coming in, soon we'll have 15 shells, we'll get wearing adornments. So that is the end for this episode. It could have been a long one, it may actually be quite a short one based on how I edited this. But we've got a second city set up, we've found shells, and we're now on our way to researching jewellery to then taking leadership. And before I end, I want to remind you guys, this is single player based only. The strategies I'm using in this certainly will not apply to multiplayer. But you got to remember that in single player, you're the only player getting new technologies. So you have to get the resources required for the new technologies. In multiplayer, we could rely on somebody else who actually has shells in their land, and then their technology will pass on to us. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave it a like, and I'll see you in episode 11.